What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of At Home with Mark. We got season 11, episode 7. And on this episode, this will be funny to kind of go back, Tony, because I was going to talk to you about the Tribe of Ben session that we did in like 21, 22 years ago.
Long time ago.
Long time ago.
I
But
wasn't sure if you remembered, but yeah.
Oh, dude, I totally remember.
Good.
Tony Correlli is here, producer to the stars, I guess, however you want to describe it. But I worked with Tony a long time ago. And I remember it like it was yesterday and we can talk about John Grant and that whole situation, but we recorded our first record with him. And then we were coming in to do our second record, kind of our third record, because the middle one we did on a 4-track, which was hilarious. But when we came in to do it, he was like, I got this other guy working with me. I can't work this one night if you guys want to come in and get started, though. And then you were there. And I remember it fondly because we were just kind of having fun. Because it was a weird tune. It was an instrumental tune on that record. And I played keys on that instead of playing guitar, and the other guitar player played the guitar part. But I can remember being in that room and working with you and like having a good time. Like I can remember leaving that session being like, that was a lot of fun.
Nice.
So I don't know what your memory serves you in terms of that night, but
I do remember. I like it because you're kind of jammy band. I like fun and experimental and interesting. So I remember that. I'm like, all right, this is funky. I don't know where this song's going.
Right.
Because some songs, like, you can tell from the verse, like, okay, the hook's going to be like kind of like this, and then it's going to go back here. But this one's like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
There we go. New feel.
And I don't know if you remember this, but my drummer at the time was playing a djembe as his bass drum.
Yep. Yeah, I think he built his own like sort of frame for it. It had like plywood sides, and it was a djembe. Yeah, so right away. So I know. So I'm like, guys, bringing in drum kit. He's bringing in some random percussion and kind of assembling something I've never seen before. I'm like, all right, this would be cool. I guess I'll mic where the beater's hitting, but then here's where all the bass comes out. There wasn't like, I hadn't read like, how do you mic a djembe when it's the bass drum? And of course, I'm just getting started anyway. So I'm like, well, sounds are coming out of both sides of this. I'll grab both sides.
Right.
So it keeps it interesting.
I mean, dude, we didn't know what we were doing either. And I don't think I think at the time, I don't know where that idea came from other than the fact that I think he was just trying to be different. And I think, and that was pre-cajon too. Like we didn't see people sitting on a cajon, slapping a cajon at that time. I mean, that was 90. I think it was 99.
It was.
I'm pretty sure.
It was in the 1900s. Can you believe it? We were alive then.
And that was on DAT, right? Were we working on a
DAT? Yeah, the worst of both worlds, all the limits of analog and none of the benefits of hard disk. So
right. Did he have like a digital performer rig there, or what was going on at the time?
So I got him into digital performer. He had Cakewalk for MIDI. So back then you would just sync a computer to these VCRs, the ADAT tape machines. So you had like 4 VCRs. One of them was broken at all times. And so you hit play on these VCRs, they sync up, they play 8 tracks, and the computer would sync up and try to play your MIDI back. It wasn't all integrated into one program. But somewhere after that, I was using digital performer and doing editing and making some electronic music. At the time, it was actually hard to really record a band on it because you couldn't play back a lot of tracks in the kind of hard drives and computers. But that was right around the tipping point where you could put stuff there. So I was doing hard disk recording at home, which grew into my studio I'm in right now. And then I brought Performer over there and showed him like, hey, what if you look what happens if you bring all these tracks into the computer? You can like align all these background vocals and clean all this stuff up. So, which he got right into because he stayed cutting edge. He got ADATs right away, and then he wanted to get hard disk as soon as possible. So at the time we were recording on ADAT, but it wasn't long after that where he switched over to hard disk and digital performer, which was interesting because I learned a lot from him getting started. And I'm 20 or whatever, and now I'm teaching him the hard disk world. And like, he never had a Mac before. He buys a Mac. It was just kind of funny. It was like just right away, like a little flip on that thing, which he still had all the recording experience and a phenomenal guitar player, which I'm never going to catch up to him on that in any sense. But I was able to at least, return the favor a little bit with like, hey, hard disk, how to get your computer optimized. And in the clunky days of early hard disk, but it was a lot better than ADAT.
Yeah. How did you meet John?
So I went to Sheffield,
Oh, okay. I didn't
and
know that.
yeah, so I went there on analog tape school, learned on analog tape, and then I was looking for a studio to get started at, and I started this like rap studio in DC that was like people weren't there half the time. It's kind of sketchy. I never really got paid for it. It was just kind of a weird operation. Maybe it was a front. I don't know. It was a strange gig. And then I contacted him. I called him, and he answered the phone. And he's like, "Oh, I'm busy. I'm making tapes and stuff." And I said, "I can make tapes. I can do anything over there. I'll come over there and do stuff." And he's like, "You want to come by tomorrow morning?" I'm like, "Yeah." That next morning, I was there with donuts and everything.
Nice.
And then he's like, "I can't like train anybody, but it sounds like you're already at another studio," which was true. I was at another studio again, hadn't gotten paid, hardly did any real sessions there. But so I just kind of fake it till I make it, get my foot in the door. And he's like, "I got to make cassette tapes. You know how to do that?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah. I mean, you put the cassette tapes in and do it." So I started making tapes in that back room. And then he said, "Whenever I'm not here, you can play with the stuff." And then he said, "Bring a friend in, bring somebody in, have them sing along with karaoke track or something." I said, "Okay." So he comes out. I had a full band. I had my friends in, drums, amps, and everything, and he's like, "All right, if you think you can do it. So I recorded this band, and then I made the cassette tapes, and they ordered the cassette tapes. So we gave them like $20, like, "Hey, they got 10 tapes. Here's the," and then they went out there with their demo tapes, and then people started calling for me. So like other band, they would recommend me to other bands, like, "Hey, we want to work with that guy that did the 10 Penny Thread tape." So then John was like, "Hey, these," and then he just started giving me the newer people and the people into the kind of music I would like. He did a lot of production where like singer-songwriters would come in and he would do everything for them: bass, guitar, acoustic, and mix it and stuff. So sometimes when rock bands came in with their amps and just wanted to crank it, he's like, "Oh, Tony will take care of it." And I
Right.
had fun doing that. And then I would usually end up adding some keys and getting into production. And I would do that kind of thing from time to time too. But so I ended up doing a lot of the live bands and stuff. So that's how I kind of snuck in there at Secret Sound. And then John and I, we still do something together. We modify microphones and still hang out and stuff. So
That's
awesome
cool,
dude.
dude. I haven't seen him in forever. I mean, can you tell him I said hello? I mean, it's
Oh, well.
been decades since I've worked with him. I mean, because we did 3 records with him. We did our first record, which was more of like an EP. It was like 8 tunes, something like that. And then the next one was like 12, and the next one was like 14. But I mean that room, I mean, I'm sure it's changed a ton since I've been there.
It got renovated once, but it looks the same as it did in 2003. But
Oh,
before
okay.
that, it looked the same for a long time.
Okay.
So
So he still has like the big live room, and then the middle room, like the isolation booth in the middle, and then the control room, and then one more isolation booth off the
yes,
control.
that's the
Okay.
format in 2003 when he renovated it, somewhere around there. And I was working with him then, and we through the night redoing the studio, and that was cool because we kind of got to like put our heads together on the design of it, and I got to be a part of how all the soundproofing goes. So I learned a lot in that process too. But yeah, it looks just like that still.
Man, that's crazy. But dude, I swear to God, man, I remember it like it was yesterday, which is crazy because I mean, it was a long time ago, but I remember I had this gigantic like 88 key Yamaha keyboard, and it was heavy as hell. And I remember when I wrote the tune, I found this weird patch called like Clockwork, and it was all these weird, like, sounded like springs breaking and all this weird stuff. And I remember we recorded the bed of the track, and we got everything to the point where we wanted it to, because there was no vocals. It was just an instrumental. And then I was like, I have one more thing I want to do. Just trust me. And everyone was like, okay. And then literally roll tape. And what I did was just like lay my arms on the keys and just like bounce my hands around, just making all these weird noises and pushing the modulation wheel and stuff. And then I remember just doing like one through, because it was going to be like a background thing, right? And then I remember being done, and you're being like, "Is that it?" And I was like, "Yeah." And you're like, "Okay." Like, there was no judgment. There was nothing like weird, but like when
I'll
we
make that work in the mix. We'll do
right,
it.
yeah. But like when we got it in there, everyone was like, "Oh, I can see how that like makes the track a little bit more textually interesting and everything." Because I've always been very interested in like soundscapes, and I've been very interested in like sonic space within music, and that probably comes from growing up as a Beatles fan and like listening to Sgt. Pepper's like over and over and over and over. But there's always something that I like, being in a studio and creating something from nothing, obviously. Like, why did you get into it?
Well, I was a keyboard player, and keyboards have sequencers. So I was already into like making tracks inside the keyboard. Of course, you can only get MIDI inside the keyboard at the time. You couldn't like record into it. And then I had a sampler and a computer, and I was getting into production even in high school. So it was pretty nice to get my hands on the real stuff. You saw the little mixing boards on the digital screens on the keyboard. So when I got to a real mixer, I did live sound and stuff. I played in bands, so I already kind of had a general sense of it. And then get into the studio, there's bigger boards with more functions, but it's all the same thing, just exploded. And
Okay.
but yeah, I was always into it. I love creating songs, like having, like I said, something from nothing. Arrangements are just so cool. You know, like you hear a song, but then you realize there's a million decisions that have been made, and I just like to be a part of those decisions being made. Like, let's have this thing go here. Let's have the drums go to halftime, or double up there, or like let's have it drop out here. All those things that give what should already be a good song, and it has to be, you know, and we'll all say this. If it's not, none of this stuff's going to save it. But if it already is a good song, and you could just amplify the dynamics, and the you put the spotlight on a cool part, or have something interesting take up some space between a chorus and verse to give you a sec, no lyrics, there's just an interesting guitar line or bell part, or clocks, sound effects being stomped on, something to especially if it's a bold creative thing. So that's
Right.
a lot of fun. So that always appealed to me. So I was lucky to be able to land into doing it. And that's all I've done. I mean, out of high school, just been recording.
Man, did you ever have like the Tascam 424 or anything, like when you
I did.
yeah.
I got started on that. I used to to people in my school, and I would sequence the drums and the bass and keys like and stuff. And then that would only take up 2 tracks if I wanted it to be stereo, and I usually did, but if I had to, I could bounce to 1. But then I had 1 live track for my guitar and 1 for the vocal. And so yeah, I did a lot with the 4-track, but 2 of those tracks in the 4-track were a sequencer, which had a ton of things on it. But yeah, I definitely had a 4-track. I was actually just thinking about getting one. I think I want to get one, just
Dude,
to have one in the corner of the studio, just occasionally, like, let's track this thing on the 4-track cassette and then just dump it back into Pro Tools just for fun.
heck yeah, dude. I just sold
Analog.
mine like last year.
Oh yeah.
It was at like my parents' house, and I found a bunch of old tapes like from when I did that. And when I learned how to bounce tracks on that was like life changing.
Limitless, which I
Oh,
mean, you could do maybe 8 at most, and then you really started to grade it.
Grade, yeah. But like that thing was, I mean, talk about like cutting your teeth and getting used to understanding like how records are made. And because there's a leg up with you being a musician, obviously. Any producer or engineer being a solid musician, where you're coming in, that you understand
I think you
everybody's
have to be.
job. Yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
so who can we think? I mean, Rick Rubin is the only person I can think of that's not a musician. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but he needs other people there, obviously. You know,
Right.
he can't do. I never know what the deal with him is when I don't know. Sometimes he just
He's like an audio
plays dumb a little
shaman.
bit. Like, I don't know that there's someone that does a good like spoof of him on TikTok. He's like, if you showed me a guitar or piano, I couldn't tell you the difference. You know, because I hear he did play a guitar part on Sabotage or one of the BC Boys songs.
Oh,
So
he
I don't know.
did?
I don't know what his I don't know what his deal is. But he also is he is a producer that directs people, and there are technical people taking care of it. Actually, I went to analog school at Sheffield, and there was a hierarchy in the analog world. You could be a tape op and assistant engineer, and you were engineer. If you did all of that, you still didn't ever need to talk about music. You didn't need to know if something was in tune or not, because the producer was doing that behind you, and they interfaced with the band. The engineer almost didn't even need to talk to the band. You were just doing the technical work, and it became really clear. And that's why I'm glad I got my start with John, where you're the guy in the room. It's you and the band. So if things aren't working, you're the outside opinion, the quality control on it to help make that work. And if it lacks something, maybe you're the one to add it. And if something's out of tune and someone doesn't hear it, you catch all that stuff. So, so I do think the role of producer engineer is it consolidated to that a while ago. And I think we all need to be that. I just can't imagine doing the technical end and not being aware of what's happening musically. I mean, even to mix it, I don't know how you do that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just to hear balances and hear where harmony should go, what kind of chord it makes. You got a couple harmonies. Sometimes one chord is the major seven. It's the color tone of the harmony. So you got to put that at the right spot. But you also don't want to make that dominant and confuse people what the chord is. Like you have to like already know what you're mixing into. So I really can't imagine. I'm sure there's someone out there, but I can't imagine being a good mix engineer that way. But let alone when you're recording people, there's not a producer in the room. You are the producer. If there's a band playing in the other room and you're the engineer, you're also the only one on the other side of the glass watching them. So yeah, I think it's critical.
Do you feel like super comfortable in that space where you're okay with conveying those ideas, or do you let the artist come to you and say, "What do you think, Tony?"
I no, I don't wait till that point. They're usually they know I'm going to do that. I'm usually recommended by other bands, and they'll say that like I'm usually like they're coming to me as a producer, and a lot of times they'll tell me that right away, like in the first thing, they're like, we want you to help take us to the next level, or they'll say we like what you did with whatever band, and I will just make sure they know, oh, that band I really like. I wrote the bridges and the intros, and I programmed the drums to that. And I'm playing the, I'll try to tell them what to do. But usually, people coming to me are expecting that from me. So I think everyone's got a different style and temperament. But in the studio, I'm very hands on. I'm very aware of what's happening musically and dive right into it. So if I feel like something's not right, I'm not gonna wait. I'm not gonna track it and be like, now that we think of it, this might be a little. I'll say it. I'll say it on the spot. But also, I'm working for the bands. I know that they're coming to me and they're in charge of their own music, so they're asking me for my opinion. But if I don't feel, if they're not vibing with what I'm saying, I'm gonna go with whatever they want. And that happened today, and it happens all the time. So I make suggestion. Like a part I thought maybe it was a little redundant dynamically. What if you just went straight into this part and the artist is like, no, I like that part because I just like the thing I say there. I'm like, all right, cool. Let's make that part as good as it can be. So I'll still work around what's there, but I'll say what I think. And if it's a democratic process, and if other people want to do something else, I'll just make that work. In the end, it's my job to just make the song work, and it doesn't have to be my ideas. Whatever ideas are in there, as long as those ideas translate. Then I did my job and I'm happy.
That's awesome. As a songwriter, I feel like for a large portion of my younger self life, I was very anti, don't change my song, man, kind of thing. And then I remember there was a point working with John where he was like, hey, are you open to me suggesting something? And I was like, sure. And I just remember for a split second being like, all right, this is a dude that cares about your song. Like, listen to him as though he's caring about your music, like not that he's criticizing you. And
Yeah.
I think that was a big tipping point for me in maturing in my early 20s and in understanding that role of a producer. And he didn't over produce us. Like I came in with like fully formed songs and the band performed them. And he usually just had arrangement ideas of like, hey, what if we just put an acoustic on this and drop out the electrics on this part, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
because he's working with what you're giving him, and he wants to get your vision.
Right.
He's not trying to make it sound like his style of music. You may not even know what kind of music he's into. He's helping your sound.
Right. And I think we were kind of close enough from the cloth. Like he knew I was a big Beatles head and he knew where I was coming from, even though we were in the jam band world. But I've never officially worked with a producer, one guy being the engineer, doing everything, setting everything up, and one guy being with a piece of paper and like talking me through things. And I've done that once. And the one time I did it, it was only a couple years ago, like 3 years ago. And it was so refreshing, actually, like removing myself from the equation of no matter how close I was to the song. It was nice to have somebody that I really respected that was like, yo, this is cool. And I see where you're coming from with this, but what if you did this? Can we try it? Kind of thing. And being open to it and then letting it happen and then listening back to it, I'm like, oh, yeah, I mean, I can see where he's coming from. I feel like that does feel better. So for me, it seems like that has evolved quite a lot throughout my career, and now leaning into it more, being like, hey, help me make this song be better. I just did that with Brian Ewald. Like He just produced the last thing I did, and he had really cool ideas for a couple things on the song that I already felt was a very strong song, and it just made it better. And
Because he's
people
going to
forget
take
about that.
he's going to take the song that you wrote, like you're already doing 90% of it. You already got it.
Mhm.
And you're just looking for that person to just polish it a little bit. They're not, if they try to take it and turn it into something else, you're not going to like that. But that's not what a good producer would do.
Right.
And it might be a maturity thing, like you said.
I think it is.
I
And
deal with that with younger bands that seem to be like, we have this perfect sound. All we're looking for is for you to just record us. We want to do the whole album in one Saturday afternoon. I'm like, I don't know.
oh, it's a long day, bro. Woo! That is a
We're gonna
long
nail
day.
it. We're gonna do it perfect. And I mean, Paul McCartney uses producers. I mean, every album he does, he gets a producer. Somebody's gonna help Paul McCartney write a song, come up with harmonies, bass lines, or something. You know what I mean? It's like no one outranks that guy on writing hit songs and being an amazing musician, but he understands that you need someone to just kind of watch your back, keep an eye on the big picture, catch your blind spots, and he'll always work with producers. So and I've told people when they want to record it, sometimes they're like, oh, well, how about we just record it and send it to you to mix? I'm like, okay, but then you're self-producing. If you're ready to produce your own record and you guys are good producers, great. If you've never done a record before, you're self-producing. You're not sending it. When I'm mixing it, there's not much I can do. I can't do what I do. If you heard an album that I produced, that's very different than an album that I'm mixing. I don't mind mixing something that's produced well, recorded in a real studio, but you're not going to get the same results if it's self-produced and none of you guys are produced. No one's taking the role. The role exists. It's just not being done. It's like there is no producer, and it's not being recorded right. So don't expect the same results.
Do you find here's a question for you, with the advent of everybody having a DAW at home now and everything, like I always demo stuff at home and send it to the band when I want them to start learning stuff, but I would never ever try to like record my own record because I don't have the gear, I don't have all the outboard gear, I don't have the right mics, I'm not set up to do that. Have you noticed that? Because a lot of people for a long time were like afraid that the big studio was going to die off because of it. But are you finding kind of in that lane of what I was just talking about, people are doing a lot of pre-production and giving you ideas of what they're going to come in with? Like, what have you noticed?
Yeah, I think everybody does pre-production, and that's cool, especially in the person's experience. You've heard of the people say the phrase demoitis, when people get used to something in the pre-production, they don't want to change it. That I would have called that a problem a couple months ago. Now the problem is Suno. Oh my goodness, people are making AI demos.
God, yeah.
Now we're talking just the demo hell at this point. So at one point, people were demo, and they were using they were opening GarageBand, which is great. I love GarageBand. I mean, you have more power than the Beatles had to do their records in any Mac laptop or whatever, and then you plug in and you get some guitar tones, got all those cool effects, and you start to play it. It's cool. All right. And then it's like, I hear it and think, let's do something similar, but a little more of a full tone, like less shrill and more realistic. And then it's like, I like this one because they're just used to hearing it the other way. So I can kind of get, but I'll work around it if I need to. But now people are getting demos made from these websites that are just, of course, AI just stealing people's music, but they're creating parts that don't make any sense. Like I was playing a piano part. I'm this close. But this is live. But if someone watches this later, this policy may be in effect because this is coming up close. It might be, do not bring me AI demos anymore. So this guy brings me a piano part to play. I'm playing it, and the piano's changing chords after it's hit. It's like boom, like just going up, and not like a pitch shift up a step. It's like going from like a major chord to the minor chord that's a third up, but like just like appearing there, and I'm just like, yeah, you can't do that on piano. It's like, yeah, I mean, I know, the computers, and I'm like, no, I mean, like it physically, like when you hit a piano note, it's that note. You can't pitch shift a piano up; it just won't sound like piano anymore. And it's like you're hearing these like artifacts of strange computers and trying to match that. So you know what, really, I mean, there's a lot of great creative tools, and I don't want to just sound like some Luddite that's saying don't use like the tools, but like if you're having a computer write songs for you and you don't know what the chord progression is anymore, and it's stealing those songs from other artists, you're no longer, for one, you're not writing. Obviously, you're not writing the song. So stop sharing this online, this new song I wrote. You did not write it. You prompted it. it wrote it off a bunch of stolen material. But also, you're not even standing on the shoulders. You're just given an image, and you don't even know how to recreate that image. So that's starting to get in the way a little bit in the studio, because if somebody brings in a demo of themselves playing guitar real simple, I may suggest some chord extensions, or like on the bridge, let's try this chord. And the person may not know a chord, and I could show them for a sec. But then if AI writes it for them, they don't know any of the chords that are being played, and they're not very connected to the music anymore. And then they're just connected to a rendering that happened. So I'm just saying that's a bad thing that's happening right now. But before, demoing on your own, everyone should demo, record on your own, record parts together, and find out if they work together ahead of time. So I think do all that, and then come into the studio with an open mind, which is what most of my artists do, because they want to make a good record in the recording, and they understand it's a demo. So sometimes you got to be ready to just keep an open hand about a lot of that kind of thing. And also know that if you played into a demo track, when you play into the studio track, it might be a little different. We may have made other changes to the kick drum, the bass, and other stuff. And that's another problem I have sometimes, where stuff is being added to demo tracks and we're already working on the real track. And I'll say, the person will bring demo in, I'm like, but stop working on that demo. Take what I did in the studio, put it into your GarageBand, and start adding harmonies to that. But you're adding harmonies to a vocal that's not the final vocal. So they don't all work because we changed the melody in some places. But there's definitely a lot going on with that. But I think everybody should still be doing their own demoing stuff. It makes it easy for everybody to share stuff, to develop the songs together.
Oh yeah.
Just don't go to a website and type in a couple band names and have it kick something out. And,
dude, I got so bummed out the other day, Tony. I was I'm a huge Pearl Jam head, and I was like looking on something online, and then like something prompted me. I think I was on Facebook, and I'm in all these like different Pearl Jam groups on Facebook, and somebody posted like an AI version of like a funk version of Even Flow. And I was like, oh god, I was like, let me check this out. And I like turned it on, and I was like, god damn it, this is hip as fuck.
There can be some cool ones like that.
Oh god, it sounded so good. And then I sent it to my bass player and keyboard player in my band, who are also Pearl Jam heads, and they were both like, damn it, all right, when are we going to cover this version? I was like, I know, right? I was like, I think we need the horn section to do this, which we don't have. But I was just like, man, there's like some cool things about it. I can see that, but like overall, I agree with you. I feel like it's a dangerous landscape right now. And as you know, two people who enjoy like getting their hands dirty and writing music and getting in the trenches, it takes all the sweat equity out of music.
Yeah.
You know? And that's not a way to grow either. Like, you know, it's a weird thing. I mean, we could talk about this for the whole hour, but regardless, it's a weird landscape to be living in. It's a weird time to be alive in general.
It is.
So, and my bass player, by the way, is Ryan Laham. He said that you recorded Cloudbreak's first record.
Yeah, they were like one of the first bands I recorded.
Okay, when was that?
That probably was 99.
Oh wow, man.
Yeah, they were like really one of my first bands. That was I'll tell him this too. That was a big learning experience for me. Record turned out great band. So I'm working on this other band later, and John comes down. I'm still doing something at like midnight, 1 a.m, whatever. And he plays it, and I'm like, I can't get this to sound good. And he plays it, he goes, it sounds good. The band's not good. He's a real nice guy. He's never like harsh like that. But it was like, and he said, because I was talking about like the drum sounds and stuff, and he's like, the drum sounds fine, but like Cloudbreak was a very talented band. They were one of the first bands I recorded, and they were like really good. And then the next bands I had never sounded as good as Cloudbreak.
Oh man.
And I was learning more. I'm like, I'm better at what I'm doing. Why doesn't it sound as good as Cloudbreak? And he's like, the band's not as good. And that was like just a good light bulb moment. And I remember once doing live sound for this, like it was a couple metal bands. There was one metal band that was just tight, and it was a drum share, amp share, but it was like so punchy and so clear when they played. And I'm like, this is like the guitarist technique. He's not just like letting things ring. He's palm muting like real precisely. The kick drum's right with it. That guy's hitting that kick so hard. I have no problem getting highs. I turn the highs down. I had all this highs I'm boosting, try to get the kick to come through. He's just killing it on the kick, so I can turn the kick, the highs down. It sounds more natural, and it's just a better band. And they made the same equipment sound better. So yeah, I learned that from not from Cloudbreak, from working with everybody after Cloudbreak, maybe appreciate Cloudbreak. And then I worked with Drew Yunt for a while after that. And we did a couple new Drew songs where we had Vince come in to play drums. I think Ryan came in for bass, and we did like basically a couple new Cloudbreak songs and did like a 20th, 25th anniversary version of the record.
Oh yeah, that was recent. That was in the past 5 years.
I remastered it, which was nice. And then I realized it actually didn't sound as good as I thought it did. Like now, technically, like, oh, I want to redo that. I think that about everything I did longer than like a month ago. But yeah, so I'm lucky we did some new songs. We remastered the old stuff, and I got to kind of control some of the harshness that I heard in it and give it a little more fullness. But yeah, Ryan's great. So that's cool that he's playing bass for you.
Yeah, I've been playing with him for I don't know, man, 2004, something like that.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, he's been my bass player for a really, really long time. Great player. Yeah, Cloudbreak, when he was with them and they were kind of fizzling down a little bit, was when I started hanging with Ryan to be like courting him, you know?
Yeah.
And
I was blood in the water. You're like, hey, you're banned.
Right. Yeah. But
I'm gonna stay close to you.
Yeah, but it's funny because like he was always a huge fan of like what we were doing in Travis Bend because he loved Fish and he loved all the jam band stuff.
Yeah.
Which I always thought was funny because like every time I saw those cats play, it was like that Incubus vibe, which I guess makes sense. I mean, Incubus are huge Fish heads actually. But it is interesting to kind of like, you never know like what these musicians, like what's like John Grant, like what does that dude actually play? Like what is he into? I don't know. I don't know if we've ever even really talked about it other than talking about yeah, I don't know. Like other than talking about Paul McCartney. I don't know that I ever really had, you know, Wings and the Beatles. I don't know if I had other conversations with them.
Yeah, he's a great jazz guitar player. He put out a record, True Spirit. But he didn't do much with it. He's just busy. I get it. I've done the same thing. I put out my own music and do no support for it because I'm just like, I'm working on the next thing.
Yeah, he was always really great. I remember listening to him play. Like he'd be playing while we were in between things, and I was like, man, he's such a great dude. He's a great player. Let me ask you this, because tell me a little bit. So, like, has Deep End been your thing for a long time? Is this a newer venture in the past decade? Like, like when you left working with John, was that like the start of Deep End?
No, I was always doing this. Really, I mean, this really did evolve from the 4-track, and then I started playing in a band, and I was producing my own band or recording it, and I bought 4 SM57s that I still have, and just kept collecting gear. And then I was going to Sheffield and learning, but I was doing stuff at the same time, so I was already working on things. And with John, what I did was like, it was whenever he wasn't working, and he did really long hours, did a lot, as you may remember. So I could only be there a couple nights a week, a couple little like slots during the week. So it was never something I could do full time. So I was doing my own thing. And I called it Swim Studio for some reason. I just came up with that name as this little swimming guy logo, Swim. And then I started to get more calls for that, basically bands that I did at home. If someone heard something I did at Secret Sound, they would call Secret Sound. I'd work with them there, and I wouldn't tell them I was doing something else. But then the bands that I was recording that I went to high school with and stuff, as they would break up and form multiple bands, that's kind of an interesting thing that happens when you work for a while. It's like, well, this band became 3 bands, and you know, so now I'm recording 3 new bands instead of
more work for you, man.
So you know, just every once in a while, I'll just stir up some trouble and create some new bands for myself. And so they as that was growing, and then I decided to renovate the room because I did everything in one like unfinished basement, just all together. So I'd put headphones on and we track everything, which of course you can't really tell what you're recording until playback. So I decided to renovate and get different rooms in my old space, not the space I'm in right now. And then I decided to call it the Deep End because I'm getting more serious. So I called it the Deep End. I'm going to go in the Deep End. I'm going to just like build these vocal booths and just like invest in what I'm doing and really kind of take a risk on producing music. And I felt like I was pretty safe to not get pulled into other lines of work. It was hard for a couple of years, just kind of putting things together, doing some live sound. I did like a radio program. I did any hours I could at Secret Sound, also made tapes at Secret Sound. But then I got really busy there. And then at some point I just told John I couldn't take new projects at Secret Sound, but anyone I was working with, I would finish. And I was doing a big band album that was like almost 2 years. So it was about 2 years from when I said I'm not taking any new projects to when I was like officially not doing anything there, because it just my setup at home grew. So my setup at home grew, and then a couple years ago, I bought a property and built like a purpose-built studio, and that's what you see behind me. My control room's got 12-foot ceilings, Dolby Atmos speakers, like it's Dolby certified room that's like designed correctly. And then I have a big live room. It's about 600 square feet on the floor, but then it gets open up top. Yeah, you got to come by and see it. You got to come and see
Heck
it.
yeah, dude. Where are you?
I got a grand piano back there. I'm in Middle River. I'm near Benji's Drive-In.
Oh, okay, dude. Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, I got to come by for sure.
No, definitely come by. Yeah, big tracking room. All like just check it out on my Instagram. But all wood. It's a very live room. Very kind of old school, like a live room and one big vocal booth. Like it's not like a bunch of rooms, or there's it's an interesting trend now where you'll see things with a lot of glass divisions, and you can open the sliding doors and kind of connect them. But it's just a big open room, which I like because I can set it up differently for different stuff. And but I did that a couple years ago, and it's still called the deep end, but it's a deeper end. That was like a bigger. That was when I'm like, I'm really going for it right now, and it's been great because I feel like I can do anything here. If someone wants to bring in a choir, I'm doing some strings tomorrow. Strings sound great in the room, so I can definitely take a quartet ensemble, probably a small orchestra in there. It sounds good. It's isolated, so it's nice to have that capability. But yeah, all of that really grew from my original 4-track and keyboard, and added a couple mics, and you know how it is. You get something and you just keep adding. You don't like trade up. You just keep collecting.
Yeah.
I didn't get rid of those 57s, and eventually I got a KSM 32 mic. It was like a $500 condenser mic, which to me, I'm like, we got this high-end mic. And then Rob Fahey came in to do something, and then he ended up doing a record with me. So I got to do a record with Rob Fahey when I was like really just getting started. And then when he was coming in, I'm like, I'm going to get a nice preamp with an 1176 compressor. So whenever I would get a big project, I'd hit up that Sweetwater gear card. I'm like, I'm gonna go for this, and I'm gonna earn that back. And so everything kind of grew from projects I do, and just continue to reinvest into what I'm doing and just collect gear. And eventually, I'm like, I just looked at my website and I needed to add some mics and stuff. And I looked, and I'm like, I'm happy. I got a nice mic collection. I remember looking at studios that have all these mics. I'm like, man, how'd they get all that? Like, what'd they get? And I'm like, oh, every year I just keep adding to it. Now I got 2 Royer R10s, and now I got 4 Neumann KM184s. And
dang, that stuff is fun though, dude. That's the thing. Is like, I know it's like you're investing into your company and everything, but I mean, I still get kind of giddy when I'm like getting something new. Like I finally bought a ribbon mic.
What'd you get?
And it's it's right here. The SE VR1.
Mm-hmm.
This thing's great, dude. Yeah. I was like,
I love ribbon mics on guitar amps. Love it,
dude. Yeah, and I'm like,
natural sounding, just
100%. That's the thing, dude. Is like, I didn't want to spend the Royer money, and I got to deal with them. So I'm an artist now, because I use this on every YouTube video that I do. Nice. And this mic is the most natural sounding, like you just said. It sounds like you're in the room with the amp, and
if you EQ it, you can. That's what I like about ribbon mics too. You add little highs, you're fine. If you try to EQ a 57 or a 421 on a guitar amp, you got some harsh frequencies, and they're going to get harsher. But ribbon mic, if you want to just shelve in some highs or bell, it sounds good. Yeah. But it right away just feels like you're there. I love it. I always use ribbon mics on guitar amps. I use it for my room mics, on my drums. I use ribbon mics as much as I can.
Yeah, I love it, dude. Because we just did a gig this past Saturday, and like someone after the first set was like, I can't really hear your guitar when you're soloing. And I was like, oh, I'll just throw a 57 on my amp. I just didn't want it to be too loud out front. And then when I went back and watched the video, I was like, oh God, it sounds so fucking harsh. I hate it. I'm like, I can't even put these videos out because it's so embarrassing. Like it sounds so harsh coming through. And people that were there that were on the sides didn't experience that. But like my camera was pretty close to the front, and it was getting belted by the PA. Mm-hmm. And I was like, God, I just like, there's a reason the 57 is a thing, right? That people love that mic. It's durable. It works on snare drums. It works on guitar amps, all that stuff. But don't think I love it on guitar amps anymore. It's just
Yeah.
too harsh. There's something about it.
It's harsh, but you also get the placement like just right, and 421 even tougher. If you're any close on axis, you're really getting some harshness there. And the ribbon mic's just super forgiving. Actually, I tend to put my ribbon mic pretty close on axis. It doesn't
Really?
bother me. It gets so soft sounding. It's okay. But if you get close to that in the 57, you'll know as soon as you get in, oh, it's
Right on
terrible
that
sounding.
cone.
You
Yeah.
gotta be in the edge of the cone. You get in the center, it's bad. The
Yeah.
ribbon mic will do fine.
Yeah. It's weird how you learn that stuff over time.
And
So
it's figure eight too, so it's a more natural sound because I like that. When I would use before I had a ribbon, I was using a 414 a lot of times. Just
oh
putting the
yeah.
ribbon on figure eight sounded better. It just more open sounding, less of a focused sound that would just like hit the harsh frequencies, which is more forgiving. So the figure eightness is part of it, but yeah, the ribbon element just picks up softer.
The 414, is that the AKG
Yeah,
mic? Okay. Yeah. I
Studio
remember.
Classic.
Did John use those a lot? I can't remember. I feel like I
He
was
had one of
exposed to
them.
him.
He would use that sometimes. U87 was his main vocal mic, which I like. I have a U87 also. But he had a 414. He would just use for different things. And he just would get a lot of miscellaneous condenser mics. He had CAD and different things. So
Mm-hmm. When you're doing drums in the live room, because I mean, obviously, I feel like every producer likes recording drums because they
all
like
over.
the way their room sounds. So
Mhm.
when you were can you talk to me a little bit about how you tuned that room, the live room? Because I find that stuff interesting.
Cool. Well, yeah, you have to see it. So where the drums are usually set up, where I like them set up, when the drums project out, they hit all these different angled walls. So all the angles of my vocal booth, my control room, every wall it hits is all weird and funky. And there's more absorption in the back where the drums are, but then when they go into the room, it gets diffused. And then the vocal booth is 10 feet tall, but the vaulted ceiling goes up to 19 feet. So the drums go above the vocal booth, but above the vocal booth, I have carpeted and I have little sound panels here and there. So some of that sound gets lost and then some of it just comes back softer and more diffused. So I set it up so that when you're playing powerful drums, they're hitting things in the room and going different directions and not slapping right back. And it's vaulted ceiling. So if you're on one side of the vaulted ceiling, you're on drums, you're projecting into the area that's got a lot of sound obstacles. I got the grand piano on the other end of the vaulted ceiling. If you open the piano lid, you're shooting into the where the drums are, and there's a little more like sound treatment there behind the drums. So you're kind of like I'm catching the piano in the room, and I'm not getting as many of the reflections. It's a big live room, but I'm not getting I'm getting a little more of a direct sound of the piano. So I designed it to put the piano there and the drum kit there. Sometimes I put the drums in the middle. Sometimes people do music videos. I've done some big band records where I move the drums over to where the piano is, and I put the horns. Like I had a 19-piece brass band come in. The first band I recorded the first day, still hooking things up in the morning while the sax players are out there setting up. And that was my hard deadline on the new renovation. So I'm like, by November 8th or whenever it was, about a month from now, it'll be my 2-year anniversary in this building. I needed to be done, and I was finishing up until that morning. But I'll move things around so it's able to be. It works at different spots. But I really did pick 2 spots as I was designing. I'm like, I need these 2 to work, and then I need sight lines, of course. That kind of makes a couple decisions for you. You need these things. You need to be able to see from one to the other. But yeah, I'm really happy with how it worked out. And I have some good outboard stuff. I have 2 API channels. I love API. So I'm just like slowly building an API console out of channel strips one at a time. I tend to get like at least the preamp and EQ at the same time. I really like having analog EQs on all of my preamps.
Mm-hmm.
Which is funny because like an API EQ, it can be expensive, and I have the UAD ones, and the UAD ones sound great because I'll use the API and Micah Tom, and then I'll recreate it on the UAD, and it sounds good, and then I can use them on like 12 channels or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
I just love having the real one when I'm doing guitars. I turn my API up to the gain level I like, and then the EQ's right there. As soon as I hit the EQ on button, it's in. It's like already like wired in. So I just like go to the EQ. Okay, that's what I want, and then I'm really happy with it. And then when I go to mix, I'm like finding myself using minimal EQ, which has been a really exciting thing that's happened lately. When I first got started, I used to not believe engineers when they're like, "Oh, I'll do like a decibel maybe or a half decibel shelving on this thing." I'm like, it takes a lot of EQ to make something to sound good, right?
Mm.
And now that I'm recording better, I'm like, it doesn't.
That's so
It can come
funny.
in sounding nice. Like these cymbal mics are good mics, and they're in the right place, and the room sounds nice. And if I want to shelve a little high end in, I can. I can roll a little high end down, but I don't have any. I don't have those crazy EQ curves I used to have, where I'm
Mm.
notching out 400 hertz at like 10 decibels and shelving in like 8 decibels of highs. Like, no, it sounds good.
Man, that's
And
crazy.
and that's because I don't have a buildup in the room too. The big room, I love having a big room. And when you think of a big room, you think because you get the reverb coming back, the big room sound. But to me, just part of it's just letting the cymbal mic sound go through, letting the cymbals go through the cymbal mic and then just diffuse. Whereas before I had drywall right above that mic, and it was like you hit the cymbals, there's all this harshness there, and I don't hear that anymore. Same kit, same mics. I'm like, oh, having it go up 19 feet and hit an angled ceiling and go the other direction and spread around the room. The room mic sounds great. I get this nice diffused reverb. I like that. But if I don't want that, the direct sound is cleaner now than it used to be. I get a lot less bleed, a lot less snare drum in my cymbal mics now. I didn't realize how much the snare drum must have been reflecting and just sort of compressing in the room back into the mics. Now it just sounds like the snare is like a lot further away from the overheads than it used to be, because it used to just hit the walls and everything and just bombard the overheads. And again, same mics. I moved in a day. I had a session on a Thursday. Friday, I shut down and moved everything over. Saturday morning, I'm hooking up and I'm working. So I moved quickly. So I can make that comparison, because I think that when some people record in two different studios, like, I like this mic better because they had it at this studio. I'm like, there's a million variables, different engineers for one, different rooms, different boards. You don't know what they did to it, but I know that I'm using the same stuff. And I definitely heard the difference between I had like, it was 6'8" or something. It was not like, there were tall people that came up to my ceiling in my other space. So I had very low, it was a basement studio. Did some great records in there, but it was a basement studio. But now it's a pretty serious, deeper end.
So for anybody out there that is wondering, does it make a difference the space you're in? The answer is yes.
The vocal booth too. Yeah.
The
vocal booth. It's that's kind of bluish room right there. It's got 9-foot ceiling, ventilated, and I don't know how many square feet it is, but it's about 17 feet long and a little trapezoidal shape. So it's a big room. It's not a whisper room. It's not a 4x4 box where you're up against it. But even that, when you sing, it's got that boxy sound, and you can put a lot of foam and try to absorb as much of it as you can, but the low frequencies build up. The foam doesn't catch that if you're in a small room to absorb the low frequencies, you need like 10-inch or 12-inch foam. You would fill the whole room with foam. So having a bigger room with some acoustic treatment in the right spot, even the vocals sound more natural and open, less boxy. There's less like of a low mid build up. And if the person gets loud, they don't get that roomy sound that just catches into the sound treatment in the cedar ceiling. So yeah, the space makes a difference. And I think that's something to keep in mind when you're comparing recording at home. Condenser mics can be pretty cheap, but it's like, okay, well, one, this is a great condenser mic. I mean, it's U87 usually. I'm going to go through a Neve 1073 and through LA2A. So you're talking about a really high-end chain, but also you're singing in a room that sounds better and is isolated. You don't have to worry about sound and try to gate out sounds. Gates are trouble. They make that clicky sound sometimes, and you don't want to do like a on the hum, because that sometimes takes things away from the source material. It's hard to get it right. It can give you that little MP3 mess with sound. So it's definitely good to have a clean space. Yeah. If you use noise cancellation, like I'll do it when I have to. I'll take like a plug-in that will sample the noise profile and remove the noise. But sometimes it takes a little toll on the sound. So you gotta be real careful with it.
So let me ask you this, Tony. Because I've struggled as a singer. I've struggled with this throughout my years of recording. First of all, singing is my least favorite thing to do when I go to the studio, because I get my own head. But I have used so many different mics throughout the years, with from high-end Neumann stuff to, we just did something like a year ago with Dave Nachowski at Stages, and he had this old Sony mic. It was like white, and it was like this big. It was not a big capsule, but for some reason it really liked the timbre of my voice.
Nice.
It sounded the most natural of any mic that I've kind of sang through. Do you feel like in your time of doing this, do you feel your ears are kind of tuning into different mics for different voices? Like, are you like okay with like experimenting with different mics, or are you like, oh, dude, I know exactly. Let me switch that mic. I know exactly what's going to work for you.
I do usually know which one I want to go for what I'm hearing, but you're right that there's not one mic, the
Mhm.
ultimate mic. It's like everyone sounds different. My go-to is my U87, very present, very clear, good for dense mixes to hear it. Some people have a lot of like noise, like rattling and resonance in their nose and stuff, and it's like that noise, that U87 is going to find that, just suck it in and make it the loudest thing in the mix. So I'm definitely going to want to go something softer tube mic, like my Perlman, or and the 414 sounds great. 414 is a really good mic because it's pretty neutral sounding, and it kind of works for everything. You can do acoustic. It's great on piano. It's great on bass cabs, guitar cabs, and voice. So I told people before, if you're in doubt, use a 414 because it's kind of middle of the road and works for everything. So if I really don't know what to do, and especially when people are loud, I'll use those. I rarely use dynamic mics. It's funny that there's a trend of that the SM7B is like
Yeah.
the internet's favorite mic. I have one. To me, it just sounds like an SM57 or 58. It's a dynamic mic. It's very colored. I mean, colored is a kind of a nice word. I would say it's uneven. It's got harsh areas and it's dull up top. Singers never like it when I compare it with another mic. When they hear two mics, they never pick it. They're always like, I want to use this mic, and they show me a screenshot of like somebody in a music video. Like, that sounds great. I'm like, it's a music video, first of all.
It's probably not the mic they're singing.
Yeah, there's not even cables on that guitar. Sometimes I call it the Joe Rogan mic to be funny, because it's what Joe Rogan's podcast use. And I think like Metallica always uses it. But first of all, some of those people, like, you don't know how much processing they're doing afterward. Good engineers, rumor has it, Michael Jackson, it was Bruce Springsteen used it on Michael Jackson record. But again, it's Michael Jackson, so what does it matter what mic you used?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I very rarely will use a 58 or a 421 or an SM7B. I have them. I'll use them for screamy stuff. If somebody's doing like hardcore and the sound of sort of overloading or cupping an SM58 is the live sound, that I'll use it. But most of the time I'm using condensers. But different people call for different stuff. And another thing is the track you're playing into. So the stuff I'm recording has its own like sort of tonal balance. We kind of all have a different sweet spot for our own recordings. So some people record very dark, some people record very bright. So it's like the vocal needs to fit into that. That's why there's also probably not one mic that's going to work on one singer in every type of track. But the stuff I record, I kind of have my own tonal center. So I usually, my U87 works or my 414 works. Usually between the two of them, I'm happy. If I need to go a little wilder, I've got my tube mic. I've also got different polar patterns you can pick. You can go to Omni or hypercardioid or supercardioid. There's a few on the new 414s. So yeah, I'll just usually listen to that, but it also depends on the track. So if you're recording at stages, whatever Dave was doing, he probably had a certain EQ, but then it was probably something to also fit your voice. Like I said, if something's got a lot of resonant high end buzz, you don't want something that's going to pull in a lot of highs or something very sensitive. And some people have a dark sound and you don't want a muddy mic. And if people don't have enough low end, they may want something that gives them some low end. But if you found a mic that fits you, great. I wonder which one it is. You're saying a white mic?
It was like a 60s. It was actual from the 60s. I can't remember. I think I have an email because I asked him what it was.
Yeah.
But they're like hard to find these days, he said. But because I mean, I bought this for the podcast. It's just like universal audio version of the SM7B.
Yeah.
And Drew
I want to
Masrick,
try that out.
yeah, it's nice. I mean, Drew Masrick told me about it because he was like, if you want, he's like, I actually think that's a better mic than the Shure mic, so you should check that out before you buy SM7B. But I've liked this, and I've used one of these on vocals. I think Drew, at one song I used it because the timbre of my voice, I have a lower register. So I don't know, man. It's like, it's been a battle. I hate singing in the studio. I mean, it's like, that's the thing that I like about working with a good producer is somebody that knows how to make you feel comfortable. to get you to a place where you're not in your head, where you can just sing instead of just trying to sing. Which I
Yes.
run into that all the time. It's just like, oh God, I hate it. Feels so forced. Like I'd prefer to almost track live and sing live, and like isolate, my guitar and like have me go into a booth and sing with the band, because I feel like it comes off so much better. But because I don't like standing, and John taught me this, like on the second record that we did with him, he was like, "Why don't you just put your guitar on? Don't plug it in, just put it on, and like
Yeah,
it'll
that's
make
what you're
you."
used to.
Yeah, and I've heard that about Tori Amos, that she does that, where she'll like sit at a piano and like the keys are like faux keys, and like so
Yeah,
she, you know,
but
so
that's how she sings.
mm-hmm.
That's how her, they say the posture of singing. It's like, well, if you're usually on a bench or half on a chair, you're doing like happy hour stuff. Like if that's your usual posture, just do that.
Yeah,
Don't
it's
mess with
crazy.
it.
Yeah, I mean, there's like I feel like there's like feng shui for like the human, condition in terms of like getting you to a space where you can perform like you at your top level. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's sometimes it's hard to do that. I love the Guitar Hero stuff. I love going in to do my solos, and I love getting to like lay down the tracks and stuff. And then the anxiety kicks in as soon as I have to like sing. I'm just like, God damn it. Like I'm like, all right, here we go again. But it's cool to like talk to people like you who are like, I deal with this all the time, man. It's like, how many times have I stared at somebody in a vocal booth and been like, all right, let's try it again. But like, take a breath, like get a drink of water, turn the lights down if you want, whatever it is that you got to do to get yourself into a place.
Yeah, yeah. And in my not trying to make a studio commercial, but if you notice, it's like I think it's blue in that room right there. It can be
Mm-hmm.
different colors. Some people just like the lights up and white, some different moods. Some people don't really like to be seen while they're singing. And I'll just make it real dim, and then I'll just have like one little purple light so they can kind of see some things. We see a little silhouette, and that's it. Whatever it takes to make them comfortable. Another thing about the mic though is the rest of the chain. Definitely use different compressors for different singers and different types of songs. And that matters a lot too. So the LA2A tube soft, kind of takes the transients off, absorbs it a certain way. 1176 faster and different distressor. So a lot of singers do play off the dynamics of what they're hearing in the headphones. And I have never mind EQing the tape, compressing the tape. I'll do that all the time because just if I like it, I'm going to keep it, and I want the singer to hear it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So the singer's singing, they're hearing themselves through an LA2A. When they get loud and the LA2A turns them down, they're going to kind of play into that. And I've definitely noticed people singing responsively to what I'm doing. And even to the point sometimes where I feel like, okay, I'm over compressing this because this person's right now is singing louder than they need to. They're hitting the LA2A too hard. I'm going to turn the gain reduction down a little bit so that they go to it right. So there is that other aspect besides just the mic, the preamp. The API and the Neve sound very different. The API is clear and punchy and has less buildup. The Neve's got some buildup. They're kind of a little fizzy on the high end, and that makes a difference on the vocal so aside from just the mic, there's the rest of the part of the chain, and all that affects the performance too. So how you feel in the room, all the other stuff, but what you're hearing in your headphones definitely matters. And the kind of reverb you use. Some people like a lot of reverb when they sing. Some people like too much. And I'll say, like, I think you're cutting off your notes a little early. Like, I think you might be leaning on it too much. We might need to reduce it. Or I don't even say it. I just reduce it a little bit and see what they do. But I do notice that as when I'm tracking vocalists, the things I do affect the way they sound. So I always try to get them hearing what they hear. And if I feel like they're pushing too hard, maybe they're not hearing themselves enough. They're missing the pitch and the timing. They're probably hearing too much of themselves. So finding the right balance, and that can be really hard if you're self-recording. So when I'm recording myself playing guitar, I find that real cumbersome. It's like I'm holding my guitar, I'm worried about the tuning. I have a hard time playing guitar in tune. To me, that's always a challenge. Like I get the
Really?
guitar in tune, but my chords aren't in tune. You know what I mean?
That sounds like an intonation issue with the instrument more than you.
It's me. You know what
Nah, I
I
don't
mean?
know.
It's just like I got it. Like especially if I like sometimes I'm like when I get to writing parts, I end up playing these like high things that I'm picking. So I'm like up here the 10th fret, the 9th fret, and it's really easy to just push too hard, pull
Mm-hmm.
it, and other stuff. So it's like I get worried about all this other stuff. tone right, and I'm also like reaching over and trying to hit the buttons. So I do find it hard to do it yourself. I'm used to doing it with keys. I'm real comfortable that way. When I'm playing keys, I'm just used to making changes at the same time. So I don't mind doing that myself. But
Right.
when it comes to other stuff, it would be nice to have another. And sometimes I'll have that if I'm recording on someone else's stuff. I'll just be like, can you just hit this record button? Like when I nod, like I'm playing along with the solo, and I'm like, hit it now, and I'll punch in.
That's
It can be
so
hard to do
funny.
it all yourself.
Oh my God, dude. Hey, let me ask you this real quick, 'cause we're running out of time, but I wanted to ask you, because I am on a journey after this weekend gig when I had that 57 issue. I was like, man, you know what? I've been flirting with the idea of getting like Line 6 just put out that stadium modeler. And I've been flirting with the idea of getting one of those, not only for like homes, like demo when I want to do stuff that's quieter. If my family's asleep or something like that, I can easily work and not have to worry about waking them up. But I'm also kind of curious, like just to try it on a gig. And like, cause we, at one point we switched to in-ears. So I was like, oh man, that would be so great to have like, just like consistent tone every gig in the ears and stuff, or even in the wedge, whatever, out front too. How often now do you see people coming in with modelers?
It's really rare for me in the studio, but a lot of times people have it and they're using it live. I think live it's great. I have a Helix Stomp that I tend to use just for live stuff. Like for anything, I'll use it as delay on my Moog if I'm playing my analog synth live because it need effects. I've gone and played bass and just used it as my bass, everything, the rig sort of. And I've used it on guitar. I've also used it in the effects loop. So I like having that. I have no problem with using it, but I very rarely, handful of times probably use it in the studio, and not really for guitar tone. Almost just use it as a stomp box, like a tremolo that I wanted to beat match, but I wanted to get it before it hit the amp. So I MIDI'd into it. So I don't mind using it in the studio. I rarely do. Drew from Cloudbreak, when he came in, he brought his Axe Effects rig. I just did a record for Daydream Destroyer, if you know them. Cool guys, all like music people, have been in the music scene for a while. I don't want to name them all, but they've all been in a bunch of bands around here. But Carlo, the guitarist, he's got a great setup, and he uses a Helix, and he goes into a couple different heads, but he uses the heads as preamp, so he has like a Friedman head. So we end up just using the Friedman head. There's times where we're just using the tube stuff, even though he had a good model that he liked. We're kind of still using the stuff. So in the studio, people they actually tend to use my amps because I have like a deluxe reverb and a 5150 and an orange and a Vox AC15. So I kind of have like a big range of them, and usually they're coming to me for cranking the amp up in the room. So that's what they tend to do. I don't think there's much of a point in like miking a modeling amp. It's like if you're already going to go out into a physical speaker cabinet, you may as well be using a tube power amp with it too. But I'm not a hater. And I think definitely for live, like my deluxe, somebody was just asking me about like using it live, and I said, well, the problem with that is you only get this breakup when you're this loud. You have to be that loud. So if you're playing at a small venue, you're not going to be able to be that loud. And then when you turn it down, you're not going to have that distortion. So I could definitely get modeling for the continuity. You're using in-ears. I mean, that's nice. Probably end up playing better if you get the distortion always breaking up the same way, and you just get the feel of like when I hit this hard, it's going to break up this much, and the chord is going to be clean when I do it this hard. And you don't have that variable of, because sometimes the master volume affects it too. It's not just your gain, but your volume might be giving you a little breakup too. So if you get used to that breakup and you turn your volume down, it's not there right, then you push harder and you're pushing on the preamp tubes instead of the output tubes. But if you get all that stuff kind of uniform and you know what to expect, you probably will end up playing better. I know bass players really like it too. You can really control your dynamics better when you can really hear it, because it gets in the room, you're in the corner of a stage, it's resonating at these certain frequencies. All of a sudden one note sounds loud and you pull off, but it's not literally loud. It's only loud in the corner you're standing in. 100 hertz took off, 80 hertz didn't, and 60 hertz is twice as loud. You get all these weird things. So in-ears can level that. And I think I honestly, I'm not familiar with Stadium series. I'll have to look it up after it. I'm familiar with the Helixes.
Yeah, it's brand new. It's taking over the Helix line. I think I can't remember what the algorithm is called. It's called like Argus or something like that. I don't know. It's
they're all getting better and better.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds fantastic. I mean, That amp right there is an amp that I would always bring into a studio, because this amp it's switchable between 40 and 20 watts.
I like that.
But the thing about it is that amp, when it's at 40 watts, it's a loud 40 watts, dude.
Yeah.
And it blooms so beautifully, dude. Like when you have it in the 40 watt mode, the clarity and high definition, like 2-Rock is like, when I got that was like my midlife crisis amp or whatever, but like it is like HD guitar. And
Nice.
for the thing that I do where I want like big beefy cleans and stuff with the Strat, and if I put like a Les Paul or my 335 in there, it's killing too. It'll break up a little sooner, and it sounds great. But like with a Strat, big boomy cleans, those amps are where it's at, and they record so amazing. And that's a 212 cab, and it's an open back cab.
Nice.
So sometimes I will put a mic on the back too when I'm just goofing off at home, and I'm like, damn, this shit sounds so good. It's just like got this 3-dimensional HD thing that I haven't experienced from any other amplifier. But I don't think I would ever use a modeler in a studio when I have the opportunity to get it cooking at 40 watts.
Exactly.
But I'm very interested. I have to say, it's like there's something that's enticing about using one of those modelers and having all of those presets at your feet too, and being able to program that stuff. And
yeah,
it's cool, man. Technology is pretty neat. So
it's cool for bands to, when you know what to expect from the other musicians, it really helps. You know, to have that continuity and be like, because I do that with my keyboard patches. I'll make a patch for a song, and then if I play a band where we use direct guitars, like I had a guitar multi-effects processor, and it was like, if I felt like when I hit the bridge organ it was a little loud, I turn it down, hit save, and it would be right next time because his guitar would be where I wanted it to be.
Yeah, that's amazing.
You know what I mean? It's like if you take some of those variables out, you can really dial it in. But if you're live stepping on stop boxes back and forth, I mean, people mess up sometimes. They don't hit the one they want, or they don't realize the boost is still on. Just so many things can be different,
right?
And it affects the way you play. If you can take that out and be like, I know this intro tone is dialed in. I don't need to make sure I hit the right 4 stop boxes on and turn the right 2 off and switch to the right pickup. It's like you take some of those variables out, you still got to get the pickup right. But then you know how hard to play the intro, you know what kind of breakup you're going to get. And all of that makes your performance better. And then you start to talk about splitting hairs on the tube or the modeler in a venue. If you can tell the difference, it's like, well, that argument doesn't even matter anymore because you've played better with your modeler because everything worked right. And you weren't messing up the intro by trying to tap the tempo on your delay and other stuff. You're trying to tap, you're trying to do all this other things. You all of a sudden got noise. You're looking to see which cable got pulled half out. So yeah, I mean, if it gets you a better performance, the subtleties of it, and you know the deal. Even in the studio, which I love, my tube preamps, my tube amps, and the way I mic them and stuff. But if somebody did like an IR of it and copied on their modeler, it would probably get really close. You'd listen to the two and be like, I can't tell the difference anymore.
It's crazy, dude.
But of course, somebody had to make the IR, so that's what I do. I make the IRs and I teach AI how to do things. Apparently, so someone's got to make the original sounds for them to copy off of.
And honestly, dude, this just occurred to me, but like, it's funny when you think about like keyboards are all modelers. Like, why are we as guitarists? Why are we so anti-modeling? In terms of like, because there's a bunch of great keyboards now. I mean, look at like even so Yamaha. I'm looking at mine right now. I have a YC series one, freaking amazing sounding keyboard. But like the Nord, all these other great keyboards they're putting out these amazing kind of models of classic instruments, clavinets, Rhodes, Whirlies, B3s, M3s, like anything that you could think of, Continental organ. Yeah, all models. And I'm like, why are we so like precious with our amps and our effects? Because you think about all these other companies that are doing digital effects like Strymon, like people love the Strymon Flint. That's one of my favorite guitar pedals I have. And it's just reverb and tremolo modeled. It's like, it's not an analog circuit, it's a digital circuit.
Most pedals are, and it sounds like that in a lot of guitars still.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny.
It's so funny.
I like this because analog, I'm like, it is a foot pedal, like it does have a button, but it's not analog.
Right. I don't know, man. It's just funny, like how we get persnickety about certain things, because and I think we all have to let go and understand. And I will never, ever, ever say that I'll stop using guitar amps, because there is something about that synergistic connection that you have plugging straight into an amplifier. If you plug into an old Plexi and crank it up, there's nothing like feeling of that stuff coming out of 412s.
412. If you got a Plexi, yeah.
Yeah, there's
Greenbacks.
nothing like it. So I'll never not play a tube amp, but like as a tool in my tool belt to have a modeler, hell yeah, dude, why not? Like, why not?
And you come up with some cool effects you wouldn't have otherwise come up with. I mean, there's so many things in those Line 6s. I think that's what Line 6 really does best. It's have a ton of effects. Kemper and some of the other ones are a little more focused on the amp tones. But you can just get U vibes and all these flangers and phasers, but you can set parameters the way they would never let you set on the physical ones. Things can go to ranges that you would never go to. But then they just make some wild reverbs and reverse delays and just stuff you can't do in the analog domain. That is really cool and fun to play with, especially if you don't know what you're doing and you just kind of, what's this thing? Writing a song, you can be inspired to write a song that way.
Heck yeah, dude. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So we could talk about this all night, Tony, but I'm going to come by the studio sometime. We can hang.
Definitely.
All right. So I do this thing called the lightning round get down at the end of my show. Right. And it's a quick, it's a quick rapid fire thing. It's a this or that. You can explain your answers if you want. You do not have to. You can burn right through them if you would like. Whatever you prefer, my friend. The first one is always the same. Lennon or McCartney?
Yeah, I like Lennon's style. I mean, not as an individual, maybe, but
right.
Lennon.
Okay. Root beer or cola?
Root beer.
Logic or Pro Tools?
I use Pro Tools all day, but Logic. Anything but Pro Tools, but I'm stuck on Pro Tools. They've gotten a little better. I fooled with it. It looks great. It looks great. Awesome. I just have to use Pro Tools. People send me stuff to mix. It's in Pro Tools. They're getting better. Avid's getting better. I filled out their survey today, and I yell at them at trade shows. They're coming around. But Logic is cool.
Yeah, Logic is great. I use Luna for all my demos. I switched from Pro Tools. I just couldn't stand it anymore. But it's built by those dudes left Avid, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Twix or Snickers?
Twix. They're both.
The Office or Parks and Recreation?
Ooh, I think Parks and Rec, actually.
Okay. Metallica or Megadeth?
Metallica. I can't stand Megadeth vocals.
Dodgeball or Tag?
Dodgeball.
Tater tots or French fries?
French fries.
Sergeant Pepper or Dark Side of the Moon?
Ooh. Yeah, I'm going to say Dark Side. We go with Dark Side there. As a keyboard player, and just a big fan of that record.
Yeah. All right, and here's the last one, Tony. Sometimes this is the hardest, sometimes it's the easiest. If you could take one album, does not have to be your favorite album of all time, but if you could take one album and erase it from your memory so you could go back and experience it for the first time again, what album would that be?
Oh, man. I do remember the magic of hearing OK Computer for the first time. I mean, I feel like, I don't know how many episodes you had. I feel like a lot of people must say that one. It's such an influential album. I mean, I have jazz versions of that record. I have dub versions of it. Like, multiple people have redone that record in ways that I like. But yeah, just the trip that one took me on, going song to song, and not knowing where any song was going. As it started, where it would end up. Yeah, I think that would have to be my one. So Radiohead, OK Computer.
You know what? I think maybe only 2 people have said that, including you.
But it has been said. Okay, yeah, it
has been said. But like, out of almost 300 episodes, 2 out of that's not a lot. So, I think that's a good one.
Me and some other guy are right.
What is your top 3 Radiohead records?
Oh, it's 3 records. Well, I mean, that would definitely be one. I really like In Rainbows. Rainbows is a great one.
Me too.
I know this is confusing, I should know, but the Kid Amnesiac or whatever, now they're mixed together. I mean, that makes it pretty powerful. Because I had Kid A and Amnesiac, but I really like I think OK Computer, and then In Rainbows, and then probably that one. But I did really like the one before the Bends was a good one. Some people only like them at OK Computer afterward. And the Benz has some of their grungier, like, they weren't all the way Radiohead yet, but the Benz is still a great record with some great songs.
Yeah.
And
Hell
has
to the
Nice
Thief.
Dream and some stuff that they were. Yeah, Hell Thief is great too.
Ooh, that's so good, dude. I mean, it's like people don't realize the depth that band has had from the beginning until now. It's nuts. It's really nuts. All right. So, Tony, tell everybody, where can they find out more information about Deep End and all that? We got some links in here. Is this the correct web address?
Yeah, you found that. So I have the deependstudio.com, and I just started building this TonyCorrelli.com because some people look for me as a mixing engineer and they don't know my studio name.
Okay.
So there's minimal information there. It's just like a picture of me with like a couple bands I mixed, and then so there's more information at the deependstudio.com. But I'm almost in a little bit of a transition between a recording studio and more of a like producer with my own spot. I think that's kind of where I am now. It's not as much a public studio. Like I get messages, people want to come in like right away and record vocals and leave. And I'm more interested in taking on projects where we're going to work on stuff. So it's kind of funny that you asked me, and I don't know what my website is, but yeah, let's say TonyCorrelli.com. The deependstudio.com lists all my gear and has pictures of the studio and stuff. There's more information there.
And then Instagram is at
the
Instagram
actually I rebranded. It used to be the Deep End Studio Instagram, and then I just called it after my name. Again, people, and I'm doing more stuff for some like national artists and people that are asking me to do things, and I don't think that those people know the name of the room that I do it in. They just know me. Right. So I'm starting to work under my own name more. So yeah, if you follow my Instagram, you're going to see a lot of pictures of the studio, snapshots into what we're doing, and then there's some kind of news happening or some cool event. I'll share it there. So I'm more active on Instagram than Facebook. I don't do TikTok at this point. I'm sure I should, but I don't. So yeah, Instagram's probably the best way to kind of see what's happening live. Facebook, sometimes I'm more likely to share like an event with information and links, which on Instagram's not as easy to do unless you tag it in a story and that disappears quickly. So yeah, check me out on Facebook or Instagram. And yeah, it's probably a good way to get a hold of me. To get a hold of me actually is always tough. I'm usually in sessions, so I don't answer the phone when I call. I never answer the phone. I have hundreds of messages I don't listen to, but text helps. But I will get better next year. I'm going to make it my New Year's resolution to get better at getting back to people. But I do tend to get focused on like the session I'm doing, and then I see my text at 1 a.m, and I don't want to text people that late. Although I'm starting to do that. I feel like we're in a world now where you can text people in the middle of the night. They should have their settings right. It shouldn't be waking up. So I'm starting to do that more.
If you don't want your phone to make a noise, just turn it off, dude.
There's functions for this. Yeah. I don't think it's weird anymore. It'd be weird to call.
Right. You up? Oh my God. Tony, dude, it was so good to see you again, man. We'll definitely need to hang out. And I really appreciate you making some time. But everybody, check Tony in his studio out. I mean, I worked with him. I tried to find, I couldn't find that song is nowhere online. I think I have
get it on there. Get it.
I have a physical copy of it. So I'm like, oh man, I don't know why. I mean, that was like, it was before CD Baby was a thing where I could dump, so it's like
get it on CD Baby. I want to say this one thing while I got the microphone. Bands, you're defunct, you broke up, put your stuff on CD Baby just one day. DistroKid you got to pay annually, so just do CD Baby in this case. Pay $30, put it out there, because music is disappearing. People are losing their CDs, and there's stuff that's just lost. I mean, the early stuff I did it's just nowhere. You can't find it, you can't look it up. So I know that in a lot of cases there's someone in that band that has that CD sitting there. Just make a CD Baby account, put it on there, pay $30 yourself. Don't even withdraw the money. And then if some band member comes up later, it's like, where's my streaming revenue? It's like, look, I'll log you in and we'll split the $3.10 that's in there, because I think sometimes that's what people worry about. Like, well, who would get the money? Well, there's no money in streaming, so don't worry about it.
Zero money, yeah.
Get your music on there, even if your band's not together anymore, because there's people out there that might be looking for it and you don't know. So you're looking for your own music, but there's probably someone out there that saw you at 8x10 and wants to hear that song again. And I want to hear that song again. So get it out there for us.
That's sage advice. Well, we'll leave on that note. Everybody, take care of yourself. Take care of each other. And we will see you next time. Peace.